So what happens when a songwriter decides to strip away every last piece of emotional armor? Well, that's the question at the very heart of Seamus Connolly's book, Naked, the Lyrics and the Lifeline. It's all about turning raw, messy, and sometimes pretty painful life experiences into structured, powerful art. So let's explore how he deconstructs this process, turning pain into something beautiful.
Right from the get-go, Connolly lays it all out on the table. This isn't just a book of lyrics. It's a promise of total, unflinching vulnerability. The title, Naked? Yeah, it's not a metaphor. It's a command, a mandate to show his innermost feelings to the world with absolutely no filter.
Okay, so let's get into the core philosophy here. Seamus Connolly, who's both a songwriter and a team coach, he basically argues that our biggest stress comes from being afraid of our own emotions, from pushing down the ugly parts, the painful parts, the parts of ourselves that feel, well, vulnerable. This slide just frames that central conflict perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have that emotional armor that Connolly says we're all trained to wear. This constant struggle to live up to some invisible checklist of perfection. This book, well, it's his counterargument. It's an exploration of what happens when we strip that armor away, when we accept our flaws, and when we just give ourselves permission to feel everything. You see, for him, songwriting isn't just a creative hobby, it's a tool he absolutely needs to process things. It's how he copes. That's why a sudden burst of inspiration or a really heavy emotional burden, that often becomes the seed for a song's chorus. It's his way of taking the chaos of a feeling and building some clarity and structure around it. So how does he translate this whole philosophy into a book? Well, it's pretty unique. Instead of just having typical chapters, Connolly breaks down each song to tell 3 different stories all at the same time. This structure gives us this amazing look behind the curtain of his whole creative process. Okay, so first up, there's the story of the soul. That's the why, the raw, personal emotion that started everything. Then you have the story of the craft, which is the how. That's the nuts and bolts of shaping that feeling into verses and metaphors. And finally, the lifeline, which is a link to the actual demo so you can hear exactly how the words and the music come together. It's pretty cool. And this right here, this is the most crucial transformation. The soul is that intensely personal, messy feeling we all have. But the craft, that's what makes it art. It's the hard work of turning that private chaos into a structured story that anyone can connect with. It's what makes the personal universal. All right, so let's see how this whole thing works with a real example. We're going to look at a song from Part I, The Descent and the Reckoning, to see this soul-to-craft process really in action. The song is called Silence in the Room, and its inspiration, it's deeply personal and, honestly, it's terrifying. It comes from that experience of waking up and finding out you've sent cruel messages to someone you love while you were drinking, and you have no memory of doing it. I mean, talk about a profound crisis of self. And here you can just see the process laid bare. The why is that raw terror of feeling like a stranger in my body who's betrayed someone you love. The how, that's the craft. Connolly uses these metaphors of possession, of digital disassociation, to separate his true self from his actions. He externalizes blame, calling it a poison. But, and this is so important, he still takes ownership of what happened. And it ends with this powerful vow to seal the devil's mouth. The chorus just crystallizes this entire conflict. I've been a servant to a poison, a puppet to a rage, a good man writing venom on a digital white page. That's the honest admission of being controlled, right? The horror of seeing a good man write pure venom. It's the absolute core of the song's painful self-awareness. And you know that one raw, traumatic experience didn't just stop there. It actually became the catalyst for another song, Good Servant, Poor Master, which is a direct interrogation of his relationship with alcohol. It just goes to show how a single moment of reckoning can fuel multiple paths of creative exploration. But the book doesn't just leave you in that dark place, not at all. After exploring the descent, it very carefully charts a path toward healing, toward resolution, and at the end of the day, toward transcendence. Part 2, called The Rebuilding, marks this really significant shift. You can see it in the song titles alone, Flame of Hope, Quiet Moments. It signals a whole new focus, the slow, deliberate work of healing, of reconnecting with your own self-worth and finding healthy support.
And the whole journey culminates in part 3, the transcendence. This is where that growth really gets cemented. With songs like No Regrets and I Am Only Human, the narrator is fully embracing a resilient, imperfect identity. See, it's not about achieving perfection, it's about celebrating the journey.
And I think ultimately the entire book is about giving you, the reader, permission. Permission to feel everything, to stop running from your past, and to start celebrating the messy, winding path that made you who you are today. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Connolly turned his vulnerability into this incredibly structured and honest piece of art. So the question for all of us is this: if you accepted your own flaws, not as weaknesses, but as your greatest source of power, what would you create?